Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And, excuse me, Carol, I'm just double checking, make sure I signed everything.
He gave me the wrong folder. Can I go back up and get it?
Yes, ma'am.
He told me where it was and it's not the right one.
Yeah, you should know
I
better.
just noticed it. Copy of the pipeline letter that you
Sure.
read? Please.
Nope, I have it.
We-
That'd be great, thank you. Yep.
Thank you. We've seen several things in the newspapers, but this came directly to the commission, so
It
that's.
came
I've
to
got one
us.
that they can have. You
I'm
can
sorry?
have this one.
Well, you might need it.
She's gonna get a
She's
copy.
gonna get a copy. Thank you, Roger.
When's that project supposed to start, I wonder? Didn't really give an indication of when.
Well, it's really started. They're already starting to contact
Landowners.
landowners.
Well, it says it'll be completed by the end of 2019. But they've started the process by contacting landowners and such.
We taxed them like once. Or was it exempt?
They're exempt for a few years, and that's what,
Yeah, but
that's
how
what,
long?
I'm gonna say 10, but I don't know that.
I was thinking there's like $1,200 a rod for just the easement.
Wow.
Sounds like a lot.
Yeah, that seems like an awful lot, because the rod is 16.5 feet.
How much is the rod?
16 and a half feet
I know when them leak, they turn your ground
is a rod.
or did mine.
And your water sour.
Well, it wasn't by
Well, now I'm
that,
doubting
so-
myself. I think that's right.
16 and a half feet's a rod. A rod through a half a
It's
mile
right
is an
across from
acre.
the gas plant. Now, when it was,
16 and a half
you guys know
feet,
there's
well,
something wrong
through a half a
across the
mile is
road.
1 acre.
Yeah, when your ground surface covers, you got a leak.
Did you find something?
He showed them to me yesterday, so.
The only reason I know is because I hated to drive a tractor and I look at, that's a lot of rods over there. I couldn't afford it. Well, I'm sorry I brought this up because after I read it all, I can see that this task force is gonna be dissolved as soon as this is over.
And that's because it is task
I thought
specific.
I was thinking if you put a resolution, it's just gonna be there forever and ever.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
And if-
There,
you know
there's a
what I mean?
termination. It's gonna end.
And I hate to have something like that, that it just
Yeah.
is locked into certain people.
Right, because this is more of an advisory board than like the PBC or something of that
So
nature.
they're gonna take care of this and then it's over with.
Right.
And like
Right.
Like
and
you
so-
as we
said,
make
we've
a choice.
advertised for it and nobody took an interest.
I guess you could rescind your motion if you wanted to. but-
Well, I look at it this way, it's probably
then-
better safe than sorry, and if there are other
Right.
members of the community that wanna be involved, great. It's just we didn't have any interest and we need to get this thing going, so.
Well, I did, yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't fighting that, I just, when I see a resolution, they're usually put on the books forever. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But, I want to make sure that we are documenting more in regards to what we are doing, because what I am coming to find is there are a lot of things out there. Well, I was told this, and they said that, and you go back through and you can't find it. And so that's
It's not in
why.
the minutes, is it?
Well, that's why I'm like, okay, if we can do this by resolution, or, you know, we're gonna start documenting all of this.
Yeah, I don't know how many
And-
times come up to look for something that was supposedly promised or said, and it's just not there.
And, you know, not only is it frustrating for them, it's frustrating for us.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to find it, and
Where to be found.
Well, I can kind of fill you in a little bit on Carroll. With their new deputy, they need another vehicle, and they have 3 bids for a new pickup. And Yost Ford did come in as the lowest bid, but we'll get to see the bids here if she finds them.
Maybe she's stuck in the elevator.
I'm sure she's trying to find these things on Cody's desk.
You know, that elevator doesn't get used a lot, but that thing hasn't really given money very much trouble, has it, over the years?
I don't know, Shelley probably can
That was
answer
put in.
that, but
The
That was put
company,
in the 90s, I believe, early 90s.
Shelley said at one time that the company was pretty good about coming and maintaining that thing and doing the maintenance work on it. Because there is such a huge liability with those.
I think you've seen in the accounts payable that we paid the service agreement. I think it's like a quarterly agreement that we pay,
Yeah.
or 6 months, it's either quarterly or 6 months, I can't remember. I think they might have been here yesterday, now that I say that, I thought I seen their van out front.
I was around when they put that in, and they brought a crew up here from Oklahoma to install that. Them guys were hilarious. I mean, they were some cards. I learned stuff I didn't know. A lot of it I don't really care to know, but. Of course, that's back when Ray and Norman were in that office. And geez, all day long, back and forth, those.
When I was a commissioner, when we had to put it in. I was trying to make sure that we did not change the structure and I think that's when we put all that in out there, wasn't it, the handicap coming in from the west.
Yeah, 'cause that's when we had to tear out the bushes.
Yep.
We did that for the pickup on the line. Wrapped a cable around it and took off. Didn't want to put a loader up there, was afraid we'd break the sprinkler
Yeah.
pipes.
And that happened when they did the windows, remember?
She's having trouble. So they're gonna lose that.
You found it.
Well, yeah, it wasn't where it said it was.
I would bet on that.
Anyway, he showed you this yesterday.
Yes.
On the pickup, and he's wanting to have permission to go on and get it ordered.
If you used the elevator, you wouldn't be so winded.
Yeah, but it's still some good exercise.
Where are the 3 bids from?
Yes, we have 3 bids. Yost Ford, Imperial Country Ford, and Tubbs and Sons. And they're all pretty close.
They really itemized that, didn't they? What is a police seat? Is
Pardon
that
me?
different than a regular seat?
What is what?
A police seat?
Yes, but I can't explain it. It's not built the same as a regular seat. I think it has probably next to the console, where they've got a console go through with all the radios and everything. I think it's built a little bit differently than a regular one.
You know how you get a
And
regular seat, it kind of wraps around you.
these got to be
These
flatter.
don't, because you got all the
Belts.
stuff on your belt and
All the
all the
stuff's like
equipment.
that, knock on the gods.
It's more of a flatter type seat.
Doesn't come up on the sides.
Extra springs for the donuts.
Well, yeah, well, there could be, I don't know.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay, we have 3 bids for a new pickup for the sheriff's office. One from Tubbs and Sons in Colby for $37,416.54. One from Yost Ford here in St. Francis. That total was $36,920. And then Imperial Country Ford, their bid was $37,280. Any discussion?
I guess he has it in his budget.
Yes, he does, because we transferred money from his equipment reserve first of this month.
Cause it's gonna take quite a little just for lights and radios.
The equipment, he's buying with his asset forfeiture money. So the only thing we're really paying for is the vehicle.
Okay. It's good to know.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but,
I so move that we accept Yost Ford.
That
okay.
was the cheapest one, yeah, I second.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting Yost Ford's bid of $36,920,
Which was the low bid.
which is the low bid?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign.
Thank you. I'll let him know.
All right.
Sorry for the delay.
That's all right, Bill, thank you.
You're welcome.
Run ahead, so.
God, we're running ahead. so-
I know.
Rodney, I wanna apologize to you. After I read the resolution, I see that this committee will be dissolved after this.
Yeah.
I thought maybe it was a resolution that was, no, I thought it was a resolution that'd be in place for a long, long time. And
I think they'll be happy to resolve this,
so,
resolve and
what
dissolve.
I was way off base and I apologize.
I think it's important work that they're gonna be doing, probably really for long term for our county, really important work.
But we do want to keep these task force task specific. Like,
Yeah.
this
No,
is,
absolutely.
this is what you're going to
wait till
do.
they-
Yeah.
And
You wanna
then,
do
you know,
those
that,
dates
that
while
task
you're waiting,
force
or you wanna do those
isn't
again?
necessarily abused for all sorts of
might as well
things.
do 'em
No,
right
this
now.
is your job, and this is what you're doing, and
Yeah.
that's it.
I have probably visited, probably 20 nursing homes in this system. And I have all this stuff and I was gonna give it to Tom and I went through it the other day and I thought, you know what, it started 3 years ago, it really not even current anymore. So, there'll be a lot of stuff they'll have to go over.
We have two highway permits. 1801 and 1802, both of them to Murphin Drilling out of Colby. Looks like both of them are just a bore under a county road. They need our approval.
Mile apart.
They're a mile apart.
So I guess we are at 2 miles.
I move we approve 18-01 and 18-02 for highway permits.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Do I see these, Karen, or do you care?
Shit, I wanna know where they're digging under the road at.
It's not that newsworthy.
That might be front page next week if you
Could
get
be.
it.
They cut a line, AT&T.
Yeah, they cut some fiber optic or something like that, and then it's news.
Yeah. So I think let's see if DJ's down here for me too, his won't take very long.
What's my agenda?
You want me to go get you one?
No, I'm fine. I just can't figure out what I did with it.
She didn't bring us one, I had to go out and haul and get one.
Oh. Boy, that new help.
Would have brought you one if you'd have said so.
Thank you.
She went to see if DJ was available. Since Jeff's not here, maybe we can slip DJ in. She didn't think he'd take very long.
No, he just left to go to the shop, so he's way back till.
If you want to, you could slip me in before and after.
Come on and get started, Reed.
I don't know.
I've got busy work and then I've got a main ticket item, so maybe we can get the busy work done.
Good morning. Murphy's Law always started with the wrong zipper.
Simplify your
Yeah, really.
case.
This is just a sample email with some contacts at, I think the state or the feds, no, it looks like both. On the Medicare, basically super rural rate that expired the end of December, and so far they haven't been able to renew it. This gives us a 22.6% increase in reimbursement from Medicare. It sounds like they're having a hard time getting it passed, so if you have the time, this probably wouldn't be a bad idea if we get an email from the commissioners out to them saying that we support that continuing payment. What that would be if that doesn't get passed would be about, depending on transfers, $20,000 to $25,000 a year of income that we wouldn't have anymore.
What would the percentage go to? It's 22.6.
So we get a 22.6 bonus, and that brings us up to about 80. So we would be 80 minus 22.6, 60.
So it's
But of course, that just depends on where you set your rates. You know, we can double our rates, and then of course that just gives us less reimbursement. So it's kind of a,
it's a bigger write-off either way.
right.
How do you determine your rates?
You guys? We
Apparently
had,
we haven't been initiated with that yet.
when I first started, that board, we went through with, and we did a rate adjustment that year.
Do you follow guidelines from state or feds
No.
or from insurance companies or nobody?
From the region, really. I go out and I kind of see what everybody else is charging, and I mean, it's a catch-22 because you're setting your rates that your private pay individual is going to have to pay. So you're also trying to judge where you're at with your Medicare reimbursement, and then the rest of them kind of fall somewhere in between there. So if you go with the thinking of, oh, I'm going to set my rates high, and usually the only people that pay the high rates are your auto accidents, it seems like, well, then you're hitting your private pay people really hard. So it's kind of a balancing act of not hitting those private pay people so much, or the people that don't have, that are undercovered.
Okay.
So,
I never really knew how those rates were set.
yeah, technically you guys set the rates. We can go through that again if you'd like to. I don't see any need to change,
Someday I would like to. I'd like
but
to see.
we could
how-
review it and
I'd
go
like to
through
see
it.
how that's
Sure.
done.
I might advise the board that if an email is going to be sent in regards to this issue, as Rita suggested, that the board needs to make a motion and it be all the commissioners signing off on it instead of doing it individually.
And I agree with that.
Just one from the whole group.
If we could
Right,
have,
yeah.
Either you or Scott maybe compose something along those lines.
Well, I think we can go ahead and just use the suggested email here. But if it's going to be coming from the county commissioners, I would prefer a motion and that it be signed off on by all commissioners.
Okay. I think we're gonna table that for a little bit here until we can
That's fine.
have a little further discussion about that. Okay.
We had our annual service inspection kind of the beginning of the month. That reviews both administrative and operational topics along with policies, procedures, and we had no deficiencies this year, which I'm very pleased staff with. And you should be getting a letter from the state saying that. I'm working with the executive director of the board of EMS, see what we can do with that Philips monitor that we acquired with the Kraft grant a couple of years ago that really is no use to us because it's an odd duck. He thought maybe they could do something, so he's going back to his people and they're gonna see what they can come up to. We went over the Medicare super rural rate. Everything that I hear says it's still probably gonna get passed, it's just a matter of time. There's some suggestions to not do your Medicare billing this year and wait for them to pass this,
You mean to hold the bill until,
to hold the billing, because then you don't have to pay, because they will backdate it if it gets passed, and then you're gonna have a mess of Now we gotta resubmit all those bills, and they really don't know for sure how that is gonna be. So,
When are they
but,
figuring on-
right, and that's the $1 million question. If it's a few months, fine. If it's 9 months, no. So I right now I'm holding, and I don't have a magic time frame of, I figure, we can look at it again maybe in March.
I was just gonna suggest that,
But I don't wanna hold it forever, cause I'm gonna get way behind.
yeah, and we're
Yeah,
gonna start
you don't-
noticing that.
Yeah, so. And let's see here. I've got one piece of paper to get signed by Terry. This is Betty Waite, who is a new EMT with us that went through that class. Also has signed up for the advanced class in Colby starting in February. So this is another application for the EIG grant funding to pay for that class from the state. That is the piece of paper you guys have to sign, and the state would support up to $1,500 of that class, which usually the instructor sets their fees right at the state amount. We did have 2 individuals not complete their requirement for the EIG grant from this last class. One is gonna be moving to the East Coast, and one didn't finish the class. So they are responsible to repay us. We are responsible to repay the state. One of those is gonna need to be repaid. The one that didn't finish the class will have to repay that here soon. The other one, we have to wait until their 12 months of service obligation is over, and then mark that they didn't complete the service obligation. So for that individual, if it's okay with you, I'd like to offer them a payment plan, since we don't have to pay the money back, give them 12 months to pay us back, and then at the end of that 12 months, we'll pay the state back. If that'd be okay with you guys, that's kinda how we've done things in the past, is allow them the same as our EMS patients to pay back.
As long as they're making the effort
Right.
to do it.
So what, she's gonna further education, so how's this gonna help us?
Whenever she's on a call and uses an advanced skill, we can bill more. That's basically what financially that would help with. It's a no cost to us. The state pays for the class, and then hopefully she's on a bunch of calls and can use her skills, and we can bill more. It also provides a much higher level of care to the patients, so.
Which I hope that would be the priority and not the
That's-
billing. Just saying.
Can I go ahead and get a motion then to sign off on this education incentive grant program?
So this would be pretty well a grant then? Are we gonna pay 20% or?
No, you pay nothing. They call it a grant, but basically they pay for the class up to $1,500. But there's nothing to pay them back. The only time is if they don't meet their obligation.
Yeah, the bottom paragraph says that the licensed ambulance service further agrees to immediately remit to KB EMS any refunds received from the student dropping from the course, failing the course, or not meeting their service obligations, so we're not really out anything.
That's over.
All those in favor? Aye. Am I gonna, where is it you want me to sign?
Operator.
I don't feel like an operator today.
When it comes to the ambulance service, you guys are the owners and the operators. Okay, that's all I have kind of with busy work. I'll let Jeff go, and then I'll come back up for staffing changes.
Good morning, Jeff.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for all you.
I did submit a short agenda to Scott last week. I don't know if you got that or not. Well, the first couple of things are just housekeeping. McClure's and Goodland did procure and install this pump assembly for the boiler, circulating pump. And I sent the invoice to Scott too. His invoice had included sales tax, billing us. So since the county's responsible for that, I reduced the tax amount there. And instead of $2,189.53, it comes to $2,018. Now,
And this is this is the pump we talked about with the circulation problem of the hot water. The end use of the hot water was losing the temp, it wasn't keeping the
no,
temp. That's a different problem?
That's hot water for sinks.
Right,
This is the boiler,
okay.
hot water circulation pump.
For heat.
Yeah, for heat. So those are two different things. I'll address.
That's what I was trying to
I'll address the
clarify.
next one
All right.
with the other. But when we went to, they did not test that pump when they installed it. The technician just left. So I instructed Craig to, well, try it and see if it works. So I went to try it and it made an awful noise. And so we called and said, it's not working right, come back. And so they sent the technician back again, and he did something with the valve, and he said the wires from the factory weren't installed right. So he fixed it and it works. And in my mind, they should have done that when they installed it. But they sent another separate charge for $288 to come back and do that. I called Mike down there, and those are good guys. And so he said he would look into it and make a determination as to what they could do. So that's where it stands. He never got back to me. And I haven't submitted that invoice for payment.
Yeah, and I
Here.
wouldn't until you hear back from him. then.
Yeah, no, I don't intend to submit it. But I was kind of surprised they went that route. Just didn't include it as part of their installation.
Yeah, it's going to be a coming thing.
So that's the story on the boiler circulation pump.
But it did render the problem.
Yeah, the problem is solved, it's working.
Okay.
Yep. Right now it's running as the primary pump, and the old pump is the backup pump. So,
So you just have one circulation pump for this thing?
no, there's two.
Okay.
There's a new one and an old one. The new one is the primary pump now. And the other one is right, they're side by side, and the other one is, we only need one at a time.
Okay.
It's backup. And then on the other issue with hot water at the sinks, so Hal Griffin's kind of been appointed by the board to investigate our hot water situation and to get with Heartland HVAC to try to get this sorted out. So Hal did come by, he did look at it with myself and Craig, figuring out how it's piped, and it seems to be put together right, it's just not hot enough. I said, well, maybe it just needs to have the flameless hot water heater turned up so it produces hotter water instead of starting at 125. I don't know where it's gone after that, but to refresh our memories, the bill for that was going to be around $500. I've not seen any invoice on that
From Heartland?
from Heartland, yeah. So everyone seems to be puzzled why it's not working. Meanwhile, the plumbers that installed the piping for the sinks are supposed to be back in town. And not only is there not sufficient hot water, the pressure is very low. So we don't know why that is. And Craig can't get the screens off to check them to see if they're clogged up or not, even though they're new. So that's on the plumber's list for things to do. So that's on hold. Everyone says, well, it should be working all right, but it's not working all right. To be compliant, the hot water temps in the dining room need to run between 98 degrees and 120 degrees.
What's happened if there's by the time the hot water gets to the end of the line, or towards the end of the line, it's lost its temp. So they're out of compliance on one sink, or is there more than one?
Well, the one in the dining room seems to, sometimes it's compliant, sometimes not. The one in the new one in the bedroom, the new bedroom, has never been above about 86. It's at the end of the loop. And the loop is a long one that runs down the whole length of the
So they were trying to come
wing
up
and
with
back.
some sort of plan. And like you said, Hal Griffin is familiar with this business, so he was gonna kind of look into it. Because when Heartland installed this, it never did work correct, is that right?
Right.
And they've made several attempts to get them back up there to correct it.
Yeah, it seems to have been a factory defect in 2 of those units, the 2 that were side by side in the boiler room. And they did send somebody out, they did replace the 1 unit, but the second one isn't working and it's shut off from the system. So Ed said he's been trying to get them to come back out to look at that one since it's defective, and they're not coming, and so it's just been like that for I don't know how many months.
So what's this do, circulate the water so it's always hot at the, is that what they do?
Well, when there's demand and cold water enters in from it being on, it goes on, it's got a flame, it heats the water as it goes through.
It depends on the length of your system, and plus the water temp when it starts. How much temp are you losing as it goes around? I mean, there's a lot of things to factor into that, but bottom line is it's not working correctly.
No, and McClure's was up there, we asked them to look at it a long time ago, saying, well, for a loop that big, you really need to have a hot water tank to keep the water hot. Just the water passing through, it's not sufficient to have just the water being heated as it passes through. So then Ed thought to solve the problem, he put a hot water tank in line, which he did. It was not a big one, it's only 20 gallons. So we'll see what Hal comes up with.
So that's kind of subject to demand. That's small.
Yeah, it's like for a household kitchen. The other thing to talk about is assisted living, where we're at with that. Just to make mention of, the phase 1 is mostly done. That was the renovation and creation of the second dining room. And we waited like 3 months for the flooring to come in. Finally it came in, and that got installed. And now there are places where those laminate pieces, are side by side. It's lifted up just a little bit, not much, small amount. And so that was on their final punch list to correct that. And so I'm not sure if it's fully corrected or not, but it's not what we wanted to have happen. I mean, it's a trip hazard, even though it's not very high. And none of the wall protection is up. It's not even ordered. Handrails and kick rails close to the floor. So this whole thing got dropped. There's a plan for it. It's in the drawings, but nobody did anything. So part of that was because we were waiting for samples from the factory to see what matched what we have now. The factory sent the samples to the architect. The architect never forwarded them back to us. He hung on to them for months. Finally, we got them about 2 weeks ago. So we know what we want, and now they have to measure how much do we need, the brackets and the vinyl outer handrails and kick rails. So, I mean, it's not a huge problem. It's still usable, but for in the long term, we need to protect our walls. They demolished the hallway between the 2 sides of the building and the long-term care building. And they're, like they had to do for assisted living, they have to dig down. They've done that. They have to compact the soil and fill it in before they lay the slab. And there's just a big hole there now. like it's gonna be a swimming pool to look at it. And yesterday, they had Midwest Energy there, they had to put the gas line and remove it somehow, so it's outside the outline of the building, the floor plan, not underneath the building. That's where it's at now. And they're all set to go, and then it was time to quit, and Midwest wouldn't stay on to finish the job, so that held up all the Brockety's guys. And the assisted living, if you've driven past there, you've seen frame walls are up. They've delivered roof trusses yesterday, so that should be going up pretty quick, unless the weather turns bad. The other thing is that I've had some inquiries from people about those rooms in assisted living and when it's going to be ready and how much will they cost. Well, really no one's responsible to have to figure that out. It's kind of up to the county since it's the county's property and there's no one set to manage
It's a
it.
task force, that's
Yeah.
what they'll have to address.
That's one of our first.
So somewhere along the line, I forget where, recently, I was kind of tasked to get some pricing from the Good Samaritan Assisted Livings in the region. And so I got that information a couple days ago. I can say briefly, I don't know if I should mention it now, maybe just give it to the task force, but
I'll get to that thing, give them information.
I got information from the assisted living communities in Ellis, Ellsworth, Hutchinson, Lyons, which is now closed. Lyons has been closed for a couple of years. Olathe, Loveland, Colorado, Greeley, Colorado, Fort Collins, and Arapahoe, Nebraska, Alma, Nebraska, Superior, and Hastings. So I've got information on monthly rents for singles and doubles, what they charge for security deposits, for pet fees, for waiting list fees. They don't have a waiting list fee. But overall, the average single unit cost and charge is $3,500. And the double room is around $1,000 more than that. So that would be like $4,500.
Well, I'm a little bit encouraged that you've had some interest. Did I understand you correctly?
We've had 3 inquiries that I know of, and of course, it's smart to try to accommodate those people and not lose them. Try to get them signed up for when the time comes.
I agree.
I've
'Cause
had
we'd
some
really,
people contact
we'd really like to have this thing full before we open the doors.
me. Yeah,
Sure.
ironically, I've had people from Lawrence.
May I see that, please?
Oh, yeah?
That's where I'm from originally, and so, that would, Lawrence County does not have this.
And so then I had some figures there about income at those rates, if the assisted living is full. So that would generate $36,000 a month. And that's $342,000 a year. So that's not, of course, all margin, because that doesn't include any expenses. But it gives an idea of where it might stand.
So it has the potential to hold its own and actually be a little bit profitable.
Yeah, I believe so. There's 2.
And I'm on this comment, Karen, I'm going to be honest, you do us a favor not quoting these numbers in the paper. I know, well, the reason is this is also preliminary, and really that task force is the one that's gonna have to be doing this. Maybe I misspoke, maybe we shouldn't.
No,
Yeah, that should not be published at this point, I wouldn't think.
It is preliminary, it is very preliminary.
But it'd be interesting to know also what they charge at Wheat Ridge
I have all of that, but
and at Ray, just
yeah,
to
I have
know.
all of that. I had it, like I said, nothing's current, so I think the task force that they've already worked on, that'll be the one. And Karen, I might mention, I think within 2 months, they can give you probably some more accurate figures of it. Because I think it's gonna be very important how we approach this to the community. It's much cheaper when you compare it to versus the nursing home.
All right, so I've distributed the accounting report showing December, and I can just say, starting in January, we reduced our staffing levels, and Tenneo's continuing to reduce, and also we're utilizing fewer agency CNAs. It's still not an acceptable bottom line there. So, trying to work on dropping that to where it's manageable. That's not manageable. And as far as staffing, we get some turnover figures through the society. They've got programs and algorithms and things. So for the society communities in Kansas, we have the lowest turnover rate of all. There's 15 others. So it's not that we're losing staff, it's that we can't get staff. CNAs, it's just not out there. And so we did post an ad in the paper a couple of weeks ago for 2 CNAs, and no result. And we're utilizing a number of CNAs that work both with us and the hospital, and we're utilizing our high school CNAs that were trained in November, and they're working more hours, and it's good to have them working with us. And then the high school is having an initiative they're starting for called Career Pathways. So they're starting a new branch for health sciences. So us in the hospital and probably EMS will be involved there and trying to talk with the high school students, giving them training opportunities. So Rob Schultz is sort of behind that. So that's a good thing. And they have not met yet, but they should be meeting pretty soon to get things rolling. That's all I have. Any questions?
Well, I can't think of any, Jeff.
What was the bottom line there for the month? They had to supplement how much, what,
45,000.
45,000?
Yeah. Almost 46.
45,966.
But outside expenses come in, so now with the requirements of participation through CMS, we have to have our water supplies inspected, all of our water heaters and boilers and anything connected with water to help prevent Legionella disease breaking out. And so the society's contracted a firm to do that for all of their facilities. And that costs us now $300+ a month, $350 a month. Wasn't budgeted for, wasn't planned for. But they have to be able to inspect and report that our water's been inspected and that it's clean and not a health hazard.
And that's done on a monthly basis.
Well, we pay on a monthly basis. We haven't seen those people out here yet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just one example of, it's more and more requirements that cost us money, but we get the same payment. Okay, if we're done then, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff.
I've got to get a bigger drawer.
Take some things out.
I tried that.
All right, round 2. All we have left is
staffing changes. Just like we talked about in October and November. Dallas, this is her last day on the job. She put in her 2 weeks ago today, I guess. And she's the one that's moving to the East Coast. So we have to decide what we're gonna do with her position and what we're gonna do with Wendy's position going forward. Wendy's position is the one we talked about both in October and November about she was only gonna be funded with the grant part-time instead of full-time. There is some concern there, even if they're gonna continue funding that part-time, because she's the only one out of the original group that started in this region left. Obviously is a big concern for me because Wendy takes so much call and is really dedicated to EMS. If she would have to replace those hours with a different occupation, she's a CNA, a CNA for Jeff, let's say, we would lose those hours. And with Dallas also leaving, it's the three of us plus Jill over in Bird City that take daytime call. And of course, daytime call is the hardest call for us to get covered because most people have daytime jobs. So I don't know if you guys have spent any time thinking about the issue, have any recommendations. We've thought about it a lot, and we went over the responsibilities and the budget, and nothing that we feel like we can do is going to be budget neutral. There just isn't that opportunity to be able to staff EMS and keep doing it like we're doing it today. A couple years ago, we did approach the commissioners, and we came up with 3 options for kind of long-term staffing EMS, and there was no discussion after that I'm aware of about what we're trying to do in the future.
Reed, would you go through each of the positions and the duties and
Sure.
responsibilities of
I
Dallas,
actually-
Wendy, yourself,
Have a list.
Tammy?
I don't have all of them with me because, like, Tammy's is just her job description. She doesn't have separate duties outside of her job description. But I have a system up there that's the Strategic Quality Support System. And I've talked to you guys about it before and you've seen some printouts. It's basically the chore list. If we were to think of EMS and having a big chore list, and we take our chores and we divide it up by people, and we say, these ones are due every day, and these ones are due every week and month and annually. That all goes into this system, and then that's what they work off of. So we have some positions that mainly work off of that system, and then some positions that just work off of their job description. So Tammy, for instance, 100% job description. She really has no chores in the station. She's 100% grant funded. We kind of stretch the limits with her even answering the phone for EMS because she's an EMS employee, but she has no EMS responsibilities, so to speak. So I don't have anything for her, but like Dallas's, those were the main ones that I was concerned with. What are we gonna do with these? She's budgeted for 29 hours a week. We kept that so we could keep it part-time. And through the last quarter of last year, when I knew our budget was gonna be tight with what we were doing with Wendy, we cut her hours back voluntarily. And basically took anything that wasn't inspection related for the end of the year, we saved it for another day. And so this list would be her responsibilities, and that's what we basically get for 29 hours a week. Like I said, right now we're closer to half of those hours.
And what are those duties?
The list is really long. I'll just hit some, I guess, and if you want a copy of these, you can have them, but some simple stuff, like on every 2-week basis, she has to check all the narcotic tag checks. We keep narcotic tags, numbered tags on all of our ambulances, part of the locking system for narcotics to make sure nobody's been in our narcotics. If the tag has not been replaced, we know no narcotics were used, and so we just carry over the inventory for the month. We don't have to go in there and count them every time. So it serves two purposes, one for inventory and one for DEA compliance. Another task here is disinfect patient care areas in 7A. So that would be like our main ambulance. This happens every 2 weeks during flu season and once a month outside of flu season. And then the subtasks are, she's got to disinfect the gurney, the floor, the handles, the seats, the cupboards, the monitor, the thermometers, the stethoscopes, and the steering wheel. And switches and buttons that are on the console. So I'm gonna skip, like rotate warm IV fluids every 15 days. We have to throw away any fluids that have been warmed and replace those with fluids that haven't been warmed. So it's a compliance thing. Every 2 weeks she has to check our glucose monitor. We've got control solutions that say, you put a drop, it should be reading 80. You check, make sure the monitor's in range. Compliance things. Zol check or monitor check every 2 weeks. Make sure it has paper, it has a spare paper roll, that it's able to produce 150 joule shock, that there's electrodes, that the battery's good, that the date and time is good, that it's plugged back in, rotate the batteries throughout it, disinfect it. It is every 2 weeks. Weekly maintenance, that's a big thing. It happens every week, and that's per ambulance. They go through, we have to clean the exterior, check the oil, make sure all exterior lights are functional, do numerous radio tests on all the radio systems, a siren test, interior lights have to be functional.
So Reed, basically what you're telling me is this position is more of a inventory, cleaning, and maintenance position?
And compliance, yes.
Compliance, okay.
Compliance. It also does.
Do you have to be an EMT to be in this position?
No, we started her off as a driver. There in her job description, no, there is no requirement to be an EMT.
Now, do we have two of these individuals, or does she keep track
So
of
she
Bird
does
City
that, and she does Bird City also. Aside from a few things, like Willie Martinez over in Bird City, he keeps the station clean. He's kind of like the janitor over there. Plus, he does the rig checks. So he goes through and makes sure these the list I just gave you, he does those for the 2 ambulances over there. So that's his job, 8 hours a week.
And he washes them every week.
Oh,
They're
I'm
gonna
sure
be
he is.
rusting out.
Yeah, I mean, like, and he's the one, he's in there, we had an airbag leak the other day. The ambulance was sitting like that in the garage. He's the one that would catch that. Reports it to me, we get it into Yoast, we get the parts, and we get it fixed. So on a weekly basis, there's somebody in that.
You've known that Dallas is leaving for quite a while. Is anybody gonna step up into this?
So how I see it is, and that's why I was kind of wanting you guys' input first, but how I would see it, we have 2 options. We can use Wendy and make her just full-time EMS and be done. We can advertise for the position, see if we have any interest. I do have 2 other people that might be interested
In the part-time?
in taking the 29-hour position. I think what I've learned is I'd like to divide that up into 2 based on who we kind of have on staff. There's maintenance things, vehicle maintenance things, and then there's the rest. And sometimes it works for that to be the same person, and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, with the EMTs you have on staff now, they don't share any of these responsibilities at all? You're relying on just that one person as far as the cleaning and?
So they go through and they disinfect the ambulance after every call. But they don't touch all the areas that this position gets to. I mean, they're not doing cupboards and
I guess the
handles,
point I'm
they're
trying to
doing the
make,
floor and the gurney.
do we have some EMTs that would step up and take some of these responsibilities?
Historically, when we've done that, they've never gotten done. And that's how things were run before me.
So that was an accountability problem more or less.
Well, what are you gonna ask your volunteers all to do is the biggest issue. We've doubled their time per call and just records. And I've seen that firsthand. And we did that over the last 7, 8 years. So now we say, you know, we're gonna pay X amount of money to go do this call. What has taken an hour 7 years ago is taking 2 hours today. If we would throw all this on top of them, it's an option.
Well, it seems to me that.
You have to have some training to be able to do this, and to train 20 people on how to disinfect handles, you're gonna have a lot of variation. There's areas that I don't want any variation.
Because there's a question in regards to Wendy's position with KU, the heart and stroke, is that
Right,
what it is?
yeah.
With the heart and stroke position, it would only seem, if we're going to keep Wendy on and try and keep her as full-time as possible, that it would be, and she probably has the training, or could be easily trained in regards to these duties, it'd be my suggestion that it just be offered to her. For the reason that all of a sudden, in my opinion, you're getting all of these players, because you're saying having 2 come
Yeah,
in to
I know.
take Dallas's, and so then you've got Wendy, Reed, Tammy, 2 more, you've got 5 just over in emergency services.
Ricky Willie.
And Ricky, you know,
Yeah, I know.
you've got all of these players, and it's like, okay, let's streamline this in regards to,
My job would be a
have it
lot
there.
easier if we could do that.
What,
Because Wendy is a tried and true tested employee. I will also throw this out since you mentioned it. I talked to her and I said her current rate is on the high end, I would think, of that position. And I recommended or asked her if she would accept a lower amount of money. And we agreed on $1.50 an hour of a pay decrease if she can get out of heart and stroke and can just do emergency services, which is where her heart is. And then she would be the assistant director. And how I came up with those figures was, and I couldn't find exactly what I was paying over in Rollins County 3 years ago, but it was around $15.50. It was more than 15 and less than $15.50. So I took $15.50. She's currently getting 18. I said, okay, if she was a full-time EMT force, just an EMT full-time, not assistant director, not all these station chores, the market data would suggest she would make about 15 and a half. And I told her that I could justify paying her another $1.50 to be the assistant director and be my backup. So that's how I came up with that, which would reduce her $1.50.
now has an assistant director been approved by the board,
No, it's just a title.
which requires a job description, which
Description and
requires
duties.
approval by the board.
Right. I mean,
So before any further conversation is had with Wendy pertaining to that position, we need to develop a position if the commissioners are going to have that position.
but I think be a little bit cautious on just, we don't need just an assistant director position. It needs to be coupled in with something else. You need to also be a full-time EMT, and you need to take on call, and you know what I mean?
Well, I think, Reed, what I'm saying is, before conversations like that are had, we need a proposal from you in regards to the development of a new position and the duties and responsibilities that are going to be asked of that position, so that the commissioners can review that and then approve or not approve the development of that position.
Okay, if that's something that, if you like the ideas of assistant director, I would be more than happy to do it.
Well, it's not necessarily that we like or dislike,
Yeah,
it's
you're
just.
the one that
you
come
just
up with the
threw-
title, yeah.
Yeah, you just threw this at us today, and the commissioners have to approve
So now you
or
gotta come
develop.
up with a job description.
And then-
Make sure it's all itemized on there.
Okay, do you want everything itemized on your job descriptions?
Yes. The
Really?
reason I say that is because later on, I don't wanna hear that's not in my job description.
Well, that's why you usually have the last line and any other duties assigned or something similar.
Whatever works.
The training I've had, you don't do that, but that's just my HR training. It's whatever you guys want.
I'd like to request 10 minutes of executive session for non-elected personnel.
Second.
Okay, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Reed, if you would step out also.